to order at Tuesday, February 4th.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call please.
Mayor Laughlin.
Here.
Councilperson Sexton.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Goodweiler.
Here.
Stillman.
Here. All right, so we're going to start right off with a couple of speakers. First will be Jody Freight, our new, you officially started yet, or April?
April 1st, I'm in my trial training period.
EMA Management Director and 911, no, not 911, EMA, same sort of thing.
Yeah, same sort of thing. First, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come over tonight. And I also want to thank you guys for what you do as council persons for West Branch. My father was a council person for many years growing up, and I know what this takes away from your family and your personal lives. So thank you for doing this to serve your community. You're definitely appreciated. As Roger introduced me, I am Jody Freed. I was recently named the EMA director to replace Tim Malott, who's retiring after 11 years with the county. I've been working for EMA for 2 years as the office coordinator and have just kind of been training for his role. Tim, as a side note, does retire March 31st. We'll have a little reception for him that day, and more details will be coming as I plan things when he's not around. So please don't tell him things are being planned behind his back. I'm relatively new to EMA, so there might be a few bumpy patches as I start out. My background is actually in finance, which has actually worked wonderfully with EMA. I am working on some education. When I can't talk tonight, I'm sorry. When Tim announced his retirement, I actually went back to school, and I'm working on my master's in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. So if anyone's looking for a little nighttime reading that's going to put you out, I can give you some textbooks. But it is an amazing field. I absolutely love emergency management because I can work with such a dynamic group of people. You guys have a top-notch fire department, first responders, and police. I won't be successful without them. And, you know, this is a town, Tim has said it, that he doesn't need to worry about. West Branch is amazing. So, to tell you a little bit more, I'm not planning on changing a lot of things in the immediate future. Tim has built an amazing program for a county of our size. When I go to other counties throughout our region, they don't have nearly what Cedar County has, and I think that's a testament not only to Tim, but all of our first responders. But there will be some changes coming down the pike, first to make our office a little bit more seamless, and I do want to focus on some outreach with our businesses and things like that, getting them prepared in case something happens in the county. You know, I always plan for the worst and hope for the best, so I do want to focus on business outreach, but ultimately it's all about protecting our citizens. So that's a little bit about me, kind of where I'm going to go with the program. Things are still very new in that director role at this point. Tim has a lot of information up in his head that he's never written down. So that's one of my first challenges, is to get things on paper. There are a few things that I'm addressing with each city. Things that I need your help with. One of the first things is ICS courses, the Incident Command System courses. I know most of you probably have taken the ICS 100, 700, but if you haven't, I'm going to do some in-person training. You can also take this training online. It's maybe a little bit more tedious online. I'm planning to do maybe a Saturday training for any jurisdiction, anybody that wants to attend, go through those 2 courses, and I'll tell you, it's a lot more fun with me. I'll have chocolate there or something. We'll gifts. So that will be coming forward in the next few months. Another thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure Roger's brought it up, we talk about it at the EMA meetings, is the disaster event purchasing policy. Not all jurisdictions have wanted to adopt this, and I'm okay with that. What this is if something were to happen, the first thing I'm going to do is try and get you the resources you need. So once you've exceeded your town's resources, you need help, I'm going to go to the state and get you whatever I can for free. Free is my favorite word. I don't want to, if I can get something for you or we don't have to pay for it, I am thrilled with that. But if there's something that might be needed, and I struggle to think of what might be needed. If you needed a Black Hawk helicopter for something, just throwing that out there, that's something I can't get for free. But at what point do you allow your mayor to have purchasing policy or purchasing authority? How much do you want to allow your mayor to spend? Some towns have given a set dollar amount. Others have said, no, we want to convene the council before we spend any money. So that is something to think about as you go forward. The other thing is there will be more information coming out on the multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan, which is our wish list. So if we had all the money in the world, what would you want to do to improve resilience and mitigation in your town? So you've probably gotten some emails on that, and if not, there will be more coming. The other thing I need help with is, Roger, I don't think you've missed a meeting since I've been in EMA. Oh, I don't think you have. I always see you. I always look forward to seeing you again. But if you do have a backup, I'm asking for contact information for that person. And then finally, the topic everyone hears a lot about are the 911 radio system. So you are the first town that is hearing this information. There will be more information going out tomorrow. But MCM, who's the consultant out of Pennsylvania, will be coming to Cedar County on February 25th to provide their recommendations to the Board of Supervisors on what we should do and where we should focus on with the 911 radios. They'll be at the Board of Supervisors meeting at 10 a.m. that day, and we're hoping that we can get as many people there as we can, since we know this is probably going to be a very large recommendation. There will also be some follow-up meetings for first responders later on in the day, but you guys will all get information on that. So that's all I really wanted to talk to you about. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to take them. I hope to come to your council meetings maybe once a quarter, just to check in and see how things are going. But I'm very excited to be leading Cedar County and helping Cedar County in this way.
The training you talked about.
Yeah.
You'll send me an email?
Yes.
When that's available?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, definitely.
Incident command training.
Yes. And I think you probably already have it.
Yeah, but a refresher doesn't hurt because I don't understand it completely.
You know, it's an interesting concept, and I agree. I think I had to go through it a couple times to fully understand it. But the ICS 100-700 is just how we respond to a disaster. It's the overarching structure of how people are put into play and resources are put into play. It's actually very interesting. They actually run the Super Bowl with the ICS system, so that's how that goes off so flawlessly. So.
Okay.
All right. And
any other questions?
all right.
All right.
Well,
Can't
thank
wait
you
to
very
work
much.
forward. Work with you.
Yeah,
It'll be fun.
I'm excited. Thank you.
All right. John Fuller is here to chat about a brief description of planned unit development zoning, why it exists and why we want it.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
try to do so. I'm here representing the Planning and Zoning Commission. Your commission determined at its meeting on Tuesday night that a rezoning of the area at the BP station and to its east ought to be done in terms of a planned unit development rather than having spot zoning of some portion of the area. This is really best planning practice to deal with a large development in this way, which allows you to essentially establish stormwater retention facilities that are suitable for the entire area, to decide upon how street and sidewalk arrangements ought to be best suited to the area, to work with any sort of a dedication for park purposes. And so after our discussion, we recommend to you that that area be treated as a planned unit development, which then can have essentially negotiation between the council and staff as to exactly the way in which the area would take place in the future. So with that sort of an introduction and what is provided in your agenda for today about planned unit developments, that is our proposal.
So P and Z voted unanimously.
Unanimously in favor of having a
Forward
planned
this
unit
to us.
development, yes.
Yeah.
That's our recommendation to you.
Didn't we already go and set like a PUD plans?
We did on the.
Kroll site,
So we have to do
no,
it
we
for
did
each?
also on, behind the BP station. That's a PUD zone. This before us tonight is just the station itself, the gas
To-
station itself.
to essentially extend the zone to the frontage
Because-
where the station is.
Well, we can talk about it when we get it to our agenda, probably.
So each one needs their own PUD?
It would be a uniform PUD with both of the properties.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Any other questions?
Okay, I'll stick around for your discussion.
John? Item E, public comment. Anyone here to speak to the council? We'd love to hear what you have to say. We cannot act. Hearing none, we will move on. Item F, consent agenda. On the consent agenda is to approve the minutes of the last council meeting of January 21st. To approve the minutes of the city council budget workshop on January 27th. And I need a motion to approve the seal coat unit pricing from LL Pelling and the claims report. Can someone give me a motion to approve all of those items, please? Nick? And a second from Tom. Any comments? Looks like seal coat's going up a little bit. I guess that's, didn't go up at all last year, did it? I think it helps
to
that.
in one area, like maybe the type A.
Okay.
They've done it, well, actually, the last 3 years, it's went up in one area each year,
Oh, okay.
and I think this year they just raised it up in all of
I don't have anything on the claims report to look at, so. Any other comments? Let's vote then. Leslie?
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
All right, item G. Item 1 is the public hearing. I'll open the floor to a public hearing on, regarding the rezoning a parcel of property located north of Interstate 80 and east of Parkside Drive from a B2 business district to a planned unit development district. This is the current Parkside BP property. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on that issue? Hearing none. You do? Okay.
Hi, I'm Ron Amelon with MMS Consultants, here to represent the developer, and just want to talk a little bit about how we got to the process of submitting a PUD. On a site like this, what we're proposing is remodeling the gas station and doing a building addition to the gas station for some more commercial space. Normally, something like this could be done with just a site plan and not having to do the PUD rezoning, except for the existing building is set back approximately 5 foot from the east property line, and the current zoning would require an 8-foot side yard setback. So in order to continue the building at that same setback, by requesting a PUD, we're allowed to request a reduced setback to 5 foot instead of 8 foot. And then on the north side of the building, the front yard, when the public street goes in for the subdivision to the east, The right-of-way the city is requesting is 60-foot wide, which would leave roughly a 19-foot front yard setback. And the current zoning would require a 25-foot setback. So again, by requesting the PUD, we can ask for a variance in the different setback for the front yard. The other advantage of the PUD would be able to look at the stormwater management in a more regional scope, and we're able to provide the stormwater management for this site on the stormwater basin that will service the subdivision to the east. So just kind of wanted to explain a little bit of that.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thanks, Ron. Any other comments from the public? This is a public hearing still. Otherwise, we'll close the public hearing, and we will go on to item 2, which is the first reading of ordinance 772 to approve the rezoning of a certain parcel of property located north of Interstate 80 and east of Parkside Drive, changing from Business B2 district to a PU planned unit development district. So once again, this is the Parkside BP property. I need a motion. First of all, Nick will motion, Jerry will second, to approve the first reading of such change. Any discussion?
The only thing I don't understand is why we're calling the north side the front, or,
Because the new street.
That's
yeah,
because,
It'll be the
wouldn't
front.
Parkside Drive
I can
be,
explain that.
okay,
We're requiring a new street to go through, which will go
Right.
through all the way to the east. Help me out, Leslie. I knew was, that has to be their front yard. The new street running east and west has to
so
be their front
Parkside
yard.
Drive won't be.
No, I would assume
It
that
won't
the
be.
current driveway into it.
That's
is
because
going to
the
become a
driveway-
street. So it's not gonna be an entrance to the property anymore. It'll be
That's
a
correct.
street.
Yeah, I mean, so when you look
So
at
I
the
get it,
street-
I get
yeah,
it, I get it
when we
now.
put that new street in, you can see kind of the divide, and the driveway actually now is accessed
Yeah.
from the street,
Street,
so that becomes your front
I
entrance.
see.
so it changes things around.
Yeah,
Thus, one of the
Alright.
reasons to, this PUD benefits the whole thing.
So that gets re-addressed.
Well, probably.
It'll be a different
We'll get to Jody.
We'll go through the address. eventually.
Yeah, because it won't be 401 Parkside Drive, it'll be probably the new street name, whatever that is,
Yeah.
to be determined.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the first reading. Hearing no more discussion, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Miller?
yes,
Stulman?
Yes,
And Dean.
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful. We have another public hearing to consider the maximum tax dollars from a given certain levies that can be certified in the city's proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Is there any comment? Is there any public hearing on, anyone here to speak on this agenda?
everybody out there understands it.
Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Thank you, state legislature. So now, we will have, Resolution 1875, approving the maximum tax dollars from certain levies for the city's proposed fiscal year 2021 budget. Someone give me a motion to approve this
I'll move.
this max levy. Tom will motion. Jerry will second. This mythical max levy. Any discussion? This is just what the government's making us do. It's full disclosure on a tax levy that's not gonna happen.
At the end of the day, we're just wholeheartedly
Not gonna happen.
putting our faith in our finance
The next couple of
team
comments?
that
Yeah,
they understand
I
it.
think they got it covered too. Okay, no discussion, let's vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Dean.
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yeah.
Goodweiler.
All right, so, let me get caught up here. Um, Item 5. I need a motion to approve revenue estimates to be incorporated in the city administrator's recommended budget. Someone give me a motion, and we'll talk about it. Nick? Second. Thank you. What sheet, are we on this Form 142?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that where we're at? Go ahead,
Yep,
Edmund,
okay,
you want to
and-
explain to the public?
Sure. So we had our budget workshop on the 27th, I believe it was, and worked through our revenue estimates at that time, and there was, I guess, probably more discussion on particular approaches that would be affecting our revenue. It's also going to be, we'll talk about it in our next agenda item when we talk about the employee salary plan. But the thing that affected our revenues would be the COLA, cost of living adjustment. And we had anticipated from our increased values of getting roughly $110,000 increase from additional increase in assessed values. So with COLA, with some other enhancements in personnel and additional employees in police and public works, and some other adjustments in the areas of long-term disability, providing the benefit enhancements that we did, short-term disability business enhancements that we did. We pretty much have used our growth. So essentially, growth is paying for growth. Mayor is right, we're not going to be raising taxes. We're not recommending raising taxes. But we did have increase, because we had increased revenues, we have had increased expenditures as well. And that's what's going to be happening, but it won't be reflected in an increase in taxes. So this is essentially came out of what our budget discussion was the other meeting.
Okay, so this particular motion, you're asking us to approve this
This is just the
report,
revenue estimates, yes.
16142?
Yes, so that's the direction.
Which is the tax levy.
So the tax, the 16142 is just kind of a background.
You got there for background.
Yeah, that's there for background.
Okay.
You're not actually approving that. That's going to
Right, that's with the
be
budget.
what you approve before March 31st. But I just wanted you to see what that tax rate is going to look like. So I think we had a couple of different options before, so this just clarifies it, drills it down to basically ensure that we're at that 1309 tax rate number.
Okay. Which we decided to stay at 1309.
Right.
I have a question,
Good.
just so
Go
we
ahead.
have some kind of conversation up here. So we approved this capital projects reserve, which is that line 3, I don't have my glasses, 384.7. And the idea is that we were gonna put, it's like the second to bottom line.
Yeah.
We were gonna put money in there, but it goes off the debt service levy, the excess from that.
Correct.
So we voted on that in September. When does that take effect? What's the threshold of that levy where we start the debt levy where does it make sense what I'm asking?
No, you're asking, yeah, great
You know,
question.
Does it start like now? So if anytime it's below whatever percentage is now, we start kicking money into it?
So
Or when does that happen?
Yeah. So we were at a point where we're growing beyond that number versus going down. So the idea is when we go down, which we eventually will, because we'll be paying down our
When
debt.
our debt goes down.
When our debt goes down, then that gap of how much it goes down then will be reflected into that levy.
So the day they voted on it, that's the percentage that we start kicking down? Because the way I looked at it, you can make that money disappear, you know?
Yeah, you're right. You're correct. So we started at what the day that it was approved.
Okay.
So theoretically, I mean, you could, but I don't think that the intent was to go back to that high number of
Right.
that 80% where we were at, and then go from there. We could, but that's not what we had promised the
Okay.
voters.
That's what I want to know.
Good question. I'm still a little unclear what we're asking. We're revenue estimates.
So when
I
we
mean,
get
we'll
those
take all the
estimates,
revenue we can get.
yeah, no, this is just
But-
you know when we get those estimates in, especially when it's early on, we're kind of doing a lot of guesswork. It's getting kind of firm now. We know kind of where we are, but this is just those little checkpoints during the budget process that we just check and just let you know this is where we are. This is what we talked about. It's going to be reflected in our overall budget, and you'll know it. So it's just another opportunity to discuss, ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why it's just a motion.
But we're gonna vote on it to approve
Yeah.
revenue estimates. Any other questions? Let's go ahead.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Dean?
Yes.
Stulman?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about salaries then. Item 6. I'll need a motion to approve the salary plan intended to be incorporated into the city budget. Someone give me a motion, please. Tom and Nick. You guys are slow tonight. Okay, go ahead.
So again, just following back up on our budget meeting, this was what the consensus was. We had two options. One was at a 2.5 and the other here at 1.6. The 2.5 basically equated to a 6-cent increase in the tax rate. Council looked at that and thought it'd make sense, and it was also my recommendation as well that we go with the 1.6 because we kind of have a system of basing that off of the federally adopted COLA. There's still room, and I think I definitely got direction that we should be exploring other ways on handling merit increases and things like that. We'll be working towards that. You'll be hearing more about that as the year goes by.
Okay, basically this is salaries 1.6 increase. Basically. That makes sense. Did I get a motion?
And I should also just include, this also includes FTEs to 2 FTEs, long-term, short-term disability, payout for retiring employees, and the 1.6. The only other area that I think would like to get a little direction is there was a question kind of brought up if the health care package for the fire chief, which this includes, should also include life insurance as a part of the benefit package. So that additional expense would be basically a manageable $1,000, but I wanted to get clarification if that was something we should add into the package. And I don't think it needs to be an amendment, just a clarification on consensus from the council.
Sounds reasonable to me.
I would say yes. For the job that it is, I would. seem like
The
insurance
same
would be
level that all other employees have, I presume? Same level? I don't know what that
Yes,
is.
it is, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sounds great.
The only thing I don't understand is, I take it that this is common practice that we pay out full-time or retirement? Okay.
It's in our employee handbook. If you were hired, I think it was before 2011, January 1st, 2011, you receive 50% of your sick time, unused sick time. And if you're hired after that, it's 25%, but both employees, I believe, are at that higher payout of 50%.
So that's only for employees before 2011?
Well, after 2011, it's a 25% payout of your sick time. So it's still
Okay.
something, it's just not as big.
Okay, thank you.
And then, of course, they pay out vacation also. So,
Unused vacation.
unused vacation,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay. Item 6, we have a motion and a second to approve the salary plan. Any other discussion, questions? Let's go ahead and vote then, please.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, now it's gonna get interesting. Item 7, motion to approve non-salary department expenditures. These are city goals, funded in the proposed budget. Give me a motion, someone. We'll talk about it. Jerry? Just give me a second, Colton.
I'll second.
Colton will second.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we kind of typically do this just to reaffirm everything we've been talking about up to this point. Green typically represents the areas where we found that we could fund. Red are the areas that we found at this point that we can't fund. And typically I'll go through them quickly. And if there's any kind of questions or anything about any one of these projects, you feel free to.
Can we clarify as
Sure.
to what funded means?
Okay.
We've had this issue before.
Yes, 'cause I
What
see
does
some of
funded
it.
mean?
Yes,
Some of it.
okay. So, just because we budgeted, we need to have a strategy on how and where those dollars will come from to pay for what we have budgeted. So that makes it funded. We could easily budget certain things but not have money available to do those things. We tend not to want to do that, but as some of you may recall the illustration of having a bucket of water that fluctuates, and that water is cash flow. Sometimes throughout the year it's tighter than other times of the year. So that's why it's also important to manage when certain projects will happen, because we need to have those dollars available. The dollars being available is from our fund balance. That's kind of our big pool. The budget is a claim to a portion of that big pool. And so we always got to make sure that we have that pool there, because if you budget more than what you have pooled, or if you budget at a time where that pool is not adequate, then you wind up having deficits, and especially if it's a project that you already started, it can get a little crazy, because then you're trying to get financing while you're, in the midst of the project, trying to close it out and all those kind of issues. I think the one that we've been talking about the most is College Street, and how we have a deficit left over from that. General fund is kicked in because we have a fund balance that's there available, and general fund has loaned to that project. But now the challenge is to repay that general fund, repay that loan, and so that we can make sure that our fund balance stays healthy. So, Gordon, is there anything I can add to that? Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I guess I'm not sure on some of these items. You say funded, and I'm not sure what you mean for some of these.
Okay.
I'm not
That's
sure
a silly one.
I'm not sure I agree. That's kind of
Well, let's get
Can
into
you
it then.
elaborate on that, Redmond?
Well, I would say each one of these items, I check with my department heads, and if it's in their budget that they submitted, that we hadn't taken away from, then they should be funded.
Well, that's the thing. It's not funded until we have the cash. Now,
Oh,
it's
you might be
budget-
talking
I
about
would call it
cash flow.
budgeted. I would say it's budgeted, but we're spending money at a pretty high rate right now. And there are some departments that we may have to not spend as much as we have been, just because it's budgeted. We're over in some areas right now. And I think I would hesitate to say, just because it's in the budget.
Now, we went through the last, at the workshop, we were $14,000 over, short.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, you went through the line item of our income, $6 million, and then we went through the
Yeah,
line item.
revenue.
Oh, you're talking about the
There was a
proposed
deficit of
proposed
$14,000.
Yeah, yeah, that
That's
was-
not quite what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about current year's operating budgets. We have, I was looking at one, I just completed the closing for January. And one small department is over like $3,000 or $4,000 for the year. And we're 7 months through the year.
I guess that's what I don't understand, is how can you be over your budget without amending it?
The budget is based on their activities. I didn't bring my list, but there's economic development, cultural and recreational, public safety, public work, capital projects, fund debt service, and maybe there's another one or two. But you can, within one of those activities, there might be 4 departments. One department might be over, another department is under. So as long as the whole activity is not over, then that's when we need to amend the budget.
So there's a little bit of Robin Peter to pay Paul
Yeah.
in
I mean,
between
the
in
department
between
I'm
the
looking
giant
at,
budget.
If we continue
And
spending,
then does that get reimbursed through road use tax or say water and sewers funds or?
well,
If
the
you say
stinker
we're in
is,
now.
the revenue doesn't really affect what we have budgeted. It enables us, if our revenues are above our budget, then we can amend our budget and spend more money. But until we amend the budget, we're limited to what the expenditures are on our budget. And if our revenues fall short, even if we have it budgeted, we don't want that fund to be negative, because then we get in trouble that way. So, right now, we have many capital projects. Some of them have surpluses and a couple have deficits. When you add all of those capital project balances, we have a surplus. But if we had a negative, then we would be in trouble for the sum of those.
There's about 20 items on this list. They're rated from top priority to high priority to moderate. If we went through, I don't want to, so downstream widening, say.
I
Is that
expect us
funded?
to be able to move $250,000 to that project.
So that can be funded.
That, I would call that would be funded.
What about, I'm gonna run down the list, and I guess I'd like your opinion and maybe Redmond's opinion on whether it's funded or not.
I have a question before you start going down there.
Go ahead.
Are you saying that the funding on some of these projects are just the timing? So we're looking at next year, next,
So I would call some
After
of these,
July.
police body cameras, an example. I would call that an operating budget item. I wouldn't call it,
It's still funded.
well, to me,
I see what you're saying.
I don't follow.
I would say it's budgeted, and we just have to look at when you wanna pay for it.
Right. That's what
I
I'm
wouldn't-
saying.
I
It's
wouldn't-
just something that just,
Funded
some of
in
these,
his budget.
these fundings need to be put off
Yeah.
till after July 1st.
Sometimes it could be funded out of a capital improvement line item, sometimes it could be funded out of an operation budget. And in all cases, it's always managed on when the best time is to do it.
I guess this is the part I know, I mean, to me, Gordon, your salary's budgeted, right? It's not funded.
That's correct, that's correct.
I mean, so, I mean, it, theoretically, it's all just budgeted.
Just a
No,
matter of when we have the funds to pay for it, that's what
Right.
he's saying.
no, not, capital projects are more apt to be funded before we start, they should be funded before we start the project. The operating budgets, we should have some reserve to start the year before we get taxes. That, I would agree with that. But I wouldn't call items in an operating budget funded just because they're in the budget. I would just say they're budgeted. And we hope to be able to pay for those out of our operating budget. But I would not call them funded. Funded, to me, is more like capital project.
So,
Now, that's a accounting definition. In the government, you would call that funded because it's committed. But he doesn't have, we've had this conversation before, he doesn't have a
I know you
government
guys have had
background.
this conversation.
But that's
Well, let me,
that's
okay,
a different
downstream widening,
terminology.
probably funded. Replacement of one block of seal coat on east side of town.
I think that's an operating item,
Where are
isn't
we
it,
at on
Matt?
that?
Yeah, I mean, it'll come out of
That,
He's,
road use tax.
Matt's rolled it into his budget
that's an
though,
operating
to
item.
be,
Yeah, but it's in his budget for him to.
If we have enough money,
okay.
then
So
it
as
would be
of-
funded, but
So
I
that's
wouldn't-
relying on state road use tax to
Yeah,
go
and the
in
rest of his
and property
expenditures.
tax.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but his budget went up 150,000. So
Yeah,
that better be in there.
Well,
It was.
I was expecting there to be more discussion when we had our budget meeting than
When
we
we
had.
went through
So-
some of these really fast.
I was hoping we'd have more discussion, but we didn't.
okay.
I mean, we didn't have enough discussion, 5.5 hours of this?
Well, if people are still concerned about the budgets, then I don't think we've had enough discussion.
I am still concerned about the budget because I don't understand what these projects are on these papers you gave us. You gave us each department budget for the projected year. And then you have projects listed on here. But I don't see these projects
I,
on here.
I think the downstream widening would be a capital project. Replacement of one block seal coat, that's coming out of Matt's operating budget next year. I
Not
think it's
every,
120,000. Is that right, Matt?
I mean, that's not for that project.
No, but I mean, it was out of that.
100,000 in that line where that project would come in.
Yeah, there are several projects listed.
You gotta look at the presentation from Matt too.
Yeah.
So it's an operating budget, so it's gonna be put in, it's not
Yeah.
gonna be put in at that name because he's paying for it out of his operating budget. So you have to look at his budget and compare it to that. It's the difference between a capital project and a project that's done by
so
somebody
that
in-house.
overall budget that he proposed to us is
Includes
funded.
Yeah, and
It's
it
funded.
includes those projects on that list,
It
but
includes
it's
the
not
little
gonna be a line
projects, it
item on
includes a
there.
couple
But that
bigger
doesn't
projects.
mean that it's going to get done.
Well, no, then you have to trust your city employees.
I
He
would not
presented
call
a budget and we said it was okay.
The
I would
plan
call
is-
it budgeted, not funded. And if we have enough money, we will be doing it.
Yeah, but
I
that's-
agree.
It's funded based
That's
off of,
semantics.
we make a list, you say, we're taking in this much revenue, so
Right.
it's funded. Because we're saying, this is what we're spending our money on, just like you would anything else. We have this much money we're spending on that project, so that's where the funding comes from. Saying it's funded is just saying we're budgeting this much money to put towards that project, It might come out of our operating expenses, but it's still funded as
That's the
long
way I
as
see it.
we
Yeah.
don't overspend something
it is.
else.
Mike gets $100, and he's saying in his budget, he's gonna spend 20 of it on this. The ordinance just saying that's not funded because the money's not technically
And
taken
then
and given it
accrue.
somewhere,
If-
but
if
he's
we
already
have-
planning on spending the money, which is funded by Matt.
Why are we worrying about this?
Well, if we have a slowdown in revenues.
Well, when we do, we'll talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's why I'm saying it's budgeted.
Are there instances where
It's
I can
it's an
see
accounting
sales
term
tax-
that he's having a hard time.
sales tax
we don't-
potentially slowing down?
Yeah, yeah. So
Property tax?
and you'll know whenever we do these things, we typically give you a presentation. We typically, if there's some kind of issue that pops up that we don't have cash on hand, we talk about it.
Every
Yeah,
water line in
oh,
town,
yeah.
you wouldn't have any money for any of this.
Exactly. If the state decided to pay
yes.
their debt by withholding money from the cities, which they've done before, that would create a situation where we would have to come back and say we're not going to be able to do this and this and this. So it's all it's a fluent process, and it's always moving. Right now at this point, we have revenue estimates and projections based on reasons that is solid. We have a budget that's based on a strategy on how to spend it that is solid, and we're saying to you, this is our recommended approach to the next fiscal year, and that's
Okay, cool.
When we started this, I looked at this page and I was thinking, this is cool. How come we haven't done it like this all along, where we have our goals and we can see that it's funded or where it's coming from and all that other stuff. I actually like this format and the way he's showing this to us. I don't understand how it became so complicated, 'cause it's actually spelled out way better than it's ever been before.
Yeah, I can agree.
So what's the Cedar Johnson Road plan? Is that in, on the,
so we'll have a work session that's mostly administrative costs. So
okay,
I say that's funded because it's going to be basically admin staff pulling that together and trying to lay out what our strategy is going to be on how we move forward with TIF or
okay.
any other.
Okay, so that's not
Special
hiring
assessment.
B&K, that's not hiring.
That's not hiring
Okay.
B&K.
Okay,
Okay.
that's the way I read it
thought
here.
That's what I was-
the way I read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for me, anything that's within our operations budget, I'm going to call that's funded. It's going to be paid for through what we are already.
And you have it listed here because it was one of our priorities.
So,
in our
yes.
I guess for us, it would be good to know if it's administrative or if it's being.
Consultants or
Yes.
goals.
okay.
Yeah, that would help,
Because it's,
Okay.
it's
because that's
kinda-
actually spending money, real money.
Right.
And maybe to add onto this format, like when you say replacement of one block seal coat, blah, blah, say funded, maybe say, just
Did you
comes
say
out of
operating
public works
budget?
budget, yeah.
I'd
Sure.
say operating budget, that way it makes it clear to everyone.
Versus a capital
You
budget.
could say funded by operating budget.
Okay,
and simple
note to
as
self for next time.
a Couple words.
That makes
That's
sense.
fine.
Cause that's always, my question usually when we're gonna do something is, do we have the money and how are we gonna pay for it? So tell us we got the money and how we're gonna pay for it.
Fair enough.
So this is in the packet, so if the public wants to,
Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's online.
Still coat replacement,
online.
all that stuff was in
I was gonna
Matt's
go through it line for
presentation.
line, but I don't know if I do have one question here on Christmas pass carriage rides.
Yes.
Where are we at on that? Because I think we need to help out.
So I think I wasn't. I'm trying to find it real quick because
Something with the insurance.
my was it funded or unfunded?
Funded.
Oh, it's funded. Oh, okay. So yeah. So the little note that I think so. I talked to Melissa and Carol's also here. So Melissa, you probably could fill us in better than I can. Try to recap.
So Carolyn and I talked, and one issue they have is paying for the insurance for the carriage rides, and that was last year $720. I think we're gonna force a little bit more. So I gave Redmond the $900 number, so that if we wanted to pay the insurance to them for the carriage rides, that would be all right.
I have a question about that. Is there any way, and it might be a dumb question, but we have that city, city co-op insurance that we have. Is there any way that that could be added to our overall policy?
I can't.
So we talked about it, this would be something to go further, but the permit is actually for the carriages that goes through the Park Service. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Maybe it needs to make it
Or, Pete, you got $900 for insurance?
Come on, Pete, kick it up.
Help a
I
brother
don't
out.
require that. I require the insurance.
So I don't know if it's their permit. It might get a little,
I think it'd be better for us just to let them have the insurance in their name and give them $900.
Okay.
it can be, we can definitely look at it
So it would
and
be
see.
mandatory.
I don't know which would be the cleaner method.
Well, my whole point is I'd like to help out with the carriage
Yes.
rides. I mean, in the past, we've done $3,000. 900 doesn't seem like enough, but you guys,
Well,
you guys
we had
resist
started
me
out
on that.
more, and then we kind of been dialing it back because one year was kind of like a crisis where they didn't know how to pay for them, and so we stepped up. But I don't know if it was initially to be like an ongoing thing. That's why it's been. That's why I wasn't sure where it was at. So
Maybe we could cut one of the things in August to help out at Christmas Pass.
I know the music on the square was kind of supposed to be that, kind of. I think.
Really?
I thought.
I don't know what we're
Then
talking
we
about.
cut back on the music and the summer music.
Yeah, we already did that.
Cut out the music and the blacksmith we used to pay, didn't we?
Well, that's,
Yeah, you used to do
that's
that.
done.
We discontinued.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
I
so
get
we're
it.
committed to helping out with the carriage rides to some extent.
To some
I
extent.
guess that's all I need to know for now.
And CDG seems to be on board with it. Yeah.
With us helping?
With the agreement that they're working on.
I know they are.
The agreement that they're working on with the insurance.
I see the Greenview curb and gutter with sidewalk plan.
What?
What's that?
What is
Okay.
that?
So,
I'd be all for it.
so we met with Brian Belk and Lotham Ridge folks a while ago, and based on their plan, they're actually taking us up pretty close to the connection. So there's a lot of that cost is borne with them. We're going from, I guess it's concrete to seal coat. So we only need to go seal coat because we don't need to.
So that's
go
what this
concrete.
is. We're thinking.
What are you looking at there?
The
No,
modern.
there's two separate ones.
Those
What
two.
about this one down here? This is one they questioned, the curb and gutter.
Oh, that one. That's a strategy. That's talking about it. That's
Talking between the administration because it's
We need
funded.
money to
Yeah.
talk.
I mean, we don't
no,
need to.
no. That's admin again. That's
They had
another
me all
admin. We'll probably have
excited there for
to.
a
Oh
About
no.
it.
I know. I
well,
got paid for that.
20 years.
I guess my
God, I would
issue
get
on
all
that is,
excited.
why would we be talking about this if this is something that's a 5 or 10 year down the road? Why would we spend money talking about it now? Unless it's in the.
It's admin in-house costs. So we'll need to start planning. That's basically what that's saying, and we need to also have an idea. I guess there's a pretty good discussion on how we're going to be handling TIF moving forward, and that's one of those items that probably would need to be in the discussion.
Okay, I don't know how you can plan a lot on that without getting V&K involved, other than a very, very quick preliminary.
Or how
We had to be really.
Which I've already seen.
Oh,
Thing.
I didn't even know there was anything
Maybe
out
one
there.
out there.
And I guess why would we be thinking about curb and gutter out there when we should probably be talking about Cedar Johnson Road? And
Well, I think we're talking about that as well.
Yeah,
I think that's
that's a high.
higher.
yeah,
Higher, yeah. That's
All right, he's just got it on his radar.
It's fun because it's his time he spent. Whether we ask him to or not, I mean, it's funded because he's paid for it.
I appreciate you talking, thinking about it, and I just don't see what, how soon it's gonna
Kids
happen.
walking in the street appreciate it too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I
We all
think
would
that.
love to have it.
And that was another one of those areas that was on the goal setting process that we hadn't had a chance to participate fully on yet. So we tried to show that we're going to be focused on it some kind of way and
Okay.
hopefully get some next steps and stuff like that.
Are we totally giving up on an alley?
Presentation from the chief.
Overlay one alley
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
down near the bottom.
Chief put that in his budget.
Sounds like it. Unless Matt can come up with some leftover money in his. Not happening. Well, he needs our direction.
I got a plan.
He's not doing a thing
I come
without
up
us
with
telling him.
I drove down there the other day to look
Yeah.
at it.
Mhm.
I come up with a plan. Put a speed bump at the end so the rock don't go down.
Oh,
Catch the rock. And then I would go through there and widen it as much as you can. Get some of the trees and the bushes and kind of pull it back a little bit. I'd make it to where the concrete going down onto Main Street is not through traffic. That's just for emergency vehicles, so you can keep it, if they need to come through there for emergency purposes.
that's
I don't
hard to
know.
regulate.
I don't know any vehicle.
car isn't going through there.
Well,
I don't even think of
My
Streets of San
my
Francisco.
suggestion was to eliminate that
Ambulance will not
access.
go through
Yeah.
there.
Dead
That's what I'm
end
saying,
right there.
Star.
I don't know if you
Take
can
40
do
feet
that
up
though
and
for
kill it.
emergency purposes.
We got plenty of,
No, can you make it up there?
You
anyway?
can't make it up there.
We can't make it
Well,
up
we have plenty
anyway.
of dead end alleyways in town.
Okay.
Pickup would
Then
be
that's
the
what
only
I would
thing.
do. I would just
And to be
eliminate
honest,
that
there's an
altogether.
emergency
Big
and
berm
an
at the
ambulance
end of it.
pulls back there and tries to go down, they're gonna need another ambulance to take that person out of to put them in that. Because it's gonna be stuck.
Does
Well,
anybody even
when-
use
You're
that?
exactly right.
They already had a furniture truck go down there once and got stuck.
I don't even like
Yeah.
going
In the
down there.
winter, they go down it because it's hard to get back up. On the alleys, we can't put a whole lot of salt sand down because it'll.
No, I mean, do the people even use it?
Yes, they do it when there's snow or ice on it.
Cause it packs
It's
it
like a
in.
gravel road, we can't get the
Fills
ice
the
on
giant
it like you
hole.
can a paved road. So a lot of times they'll have, if they aren't the nicest in the winter.
But people using that isn't the problem. It's the gravel that washes on the Main Street.
Right.
That's the
Yeah,
problem.
but if you back it up 40 feet, there isn't any.
Back it up.
Well, that's what I said.
Get rid of
Quit,
the entrance.
quit putting the gravel back. If you're, I mean, can only be so much of it
Abandon
washing
that
down the
entrance,
road.
40
There you
feet
go.
up, wherever the entrance of whoever the house is right there.
The first
Take it up to their
house.
driveway and then
No more gravel.
seed it. Turn it into grass.
And I wouldn't even use gravel. I'd use recycled asphalt. They give that stuff away.
Same thing in washes away.
It'll wash away. Okay, so we're probably not gonna do much on that subject anyway.
Come up with a great plan there, Matt.
He won't do a thing until he hears from us, so I've chatted with him about it. All right, where are we at? I think we've had good discussion on all these and, non-salary expenditures, they seem to fit in the budget one way or another. Did we get a motion? Did I get a motion? I did? Any other discussion? Otherwise, we can vote on these and move on. Okay,
Councilperson
go ahead.
Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
No.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
All right, this is a discussion. All right, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
All right, item 8. Discussion item regarding policy on waivers for sewer service charges. I think this is for people who run their water and want reimbursed because they left their hose on. Redmond did some research, it looks like, and
Leslie, I can't take.
Leslie
credit.
did, all right. Good job. What'd you find?
Okay, well, I reached out to a few of my clerk friends, and they provided their policies to me, and I provided them to you. That's what's in your packet. Basically, anyone who leaves their garden hose on, waters their yard, waters sod, waters gardens, or fill swimming pools, they do not give sewer credit to. One city doesn't do anything at all. North Liberty and Iowa City's policies pretty much look alike. After reading them and seeing what they will not do, I thought there are some good things that they would do. So in the event that somebody has a water pipe break in their basement and it floods it, then they do get a credit for that, but they have to go through certain steps. They have to, notify the city within a certain period of time. They have to provide a receipt saying that they've had the repair fixed. They have to show proof that they didn't also get a reimbursement from their insurance company. So I think it's worth it for us to have some sort of policy saying what we will do, but then also stating what we won't do and what are the reasons why. So I think both of them, I said they're pretty good. I would recommend either one of them. So I'm just looking for your direction. But the reason this was brought up was because we had two people last summer come in and didn't know you could use a landscape meter to water their garden and make their yards look really nice. And then it would be a more consistent response from the council to those situations. It would give better clarity and better guidance, I think. So
Even though it is clear in our
it's
code that we don't, is it clear or not?
it just I believe it says that they can, well, actually what we refer to them is we tell them, I tell them I don't have
Come to us.
authorization to change your water bill. You have to come to the council and ask for forgiveness. And so that's what we've done.
And we pretty much denied it.
Yes.
We have always denied it.
I think the last person that was in had a verbal thought that she was getting relief. But we have no policy in place.
Yeah.
So that's why this discussion is here today.
So if we came up with a policy, then it could be, if they come in, they have the situation that's in the policy, you could just say, yes, we will, you don't need to bring it to council.
Yes, and actually North Liberty, it's their water department, like probably someone from their water department and their assistant city administrator who actually reviews it. It could be Redmond, or it could be me, I'm the one who does the water bill, so whoever you guys decide to designate who wants to
Even
do
then,
it. It wouldn't have to come here unless they don't like the decision made down below.
Sure.
So,
Even then, it would only be the sewer portion of
the
the
sewer
water bill.
portion, yep.
If
But,
there's a water
it was
main
pretty much a
break, I guess
resounding no, we don't give sewer credit for people filling their.
Even water credit. If your basement fills up with water, we're probably not gonna give the water money back.
No, it was only for sewer, that's the way
Sewer
their
only,
policy, it was sewer only.
Well,
We had it happen once.
I see.
Go ahead.
I'm okay for doing some of this, but as far as if I didn't know, I mean, the whole world works on ignorance is no excuse. I mean, if you didn't know, that's your problem. That's not the taxpayer's problem. It's not a secret.
That's what most of these cities are saying too.
Yeah.
They don't forgive that.
So, I'm looking at that with city policy, which I mean, there's some nice points in there that I like to see. But what if, the first point there is the monthly high usage has to have 50% more than the average usage for 12 months. Well, what if somebody just moved to town, they're here for less than 12 months, don't have an established average, and sometime in that first 12 months, they have a water line break or something.
Yeah, and it could be
That'd
maybe.
be a question that we'd have to.
Yeah, and it could be maybe one of these points or all of these points, or, 2 out of 3, however we
Yeah.
wanna word it.
I mean,
we've, in the 5 years I've been here, I've heard a variety of things, so I could probably come up with some.
North Liberty did, they
Yeah.
said,
Yeah,
has to be more than 50% more than the industry standard.
yeah.
So you'd have to define whatever the industry standard is.
Yeah.
Like I said, what I find a lot of times is when I ask one city, I realize that one person has taken the policy and taken it pretty much, which helps us all out. It's like, why reinvent the wheel? So, but yeah,
Okay.
so if there's
I think
certain things you like and don't like, just let me know. I can
Okay.
put something together. And if you like one policy better than the other, I can mush them together and bring something back. But
I'll do
just
some
looking for your
highlighting.
direction. But I would recommend that we have something that addresses both issues. So that way we can have some there will be no
Would
wishy-washy.
this be a change of code?
No.
Is there a code or
It would just be a policy.
It's 2 months, 2 months,
okay.
you have 15 days.
Okay, so if anybody wants to, I don't know, do we want to recommend, I don't feel like going through it right now.
That's fine. Just,
I think,
just maybe give me some feedback individually or at the next meeting, whichever you'd like to do, and I can.
I'd say we all go through and highlight points that we like and
Yeah.
bring
I'll
them back
put
and
it
let
together
Leslie
in a
look at
draft.
them.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Thank you.
Item 9 is discussion regarding waiving Hoover Hometown Days vendor fees for the brick and mortar businesses along Main Street. This is, I'll have Melissa explain it, but we charge vendors, every vendor who goes on to Main Street, we charge them a fee. Some of the businesses on Main Street, maybe we shouldn't charge them a fee because they're our hometown businesses.
At the front of their store.
I agree.
They're using the front of their street, in front of their store.
In front of their street, in front of their door. We shouldn't charge them for that. Go ahead, Melissa.
So the vendor fees for Hoover's Hometown Days were put in place when RAGBRAI came through last, so I don't know what that was, 7-8 years ago. And so we met, Carolyn and I and Roger, and we met with a couple of businesses, and they said part of the reason they don't like to come out is because they don't want to pay a fee. It's a $25 fee. They don't want to come out, pay that fee. So we're like, okay, that's fine. Well, what about then, we discussed, what about the other businesses in town that aren't necessarily on Main Street? So that's why we came to the brick and mortar versus, somebody selling something out of their home. We thought if they're invested in a building, then they could get that fee waived. So that's how that came about. Whether or not it will bring more businesses out on Main Street, because we've heard a variety of, staffing and just different issues. We thought we'd maybe give that a try. This does not, so out-of-town businesses pay a $50 vendor fee. So that's still in place. That's not a discussion item at all. It's just the,
If they have an address, it's an out-of-town address. Okay.
now we have had things where, like if they own a business in town too, we give them the in-town business, even if they're personal residents out of town. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but,
Yeah, it does.
so that's where that came
You're
up.
committed to our community by having a business in our community.
Yeah. So that's how this came about, and
So you're looking for a direction to waive these fees?
And-
Or
and-
reduce or waive completely?
I would recommend waive completely. And honestly, we're not talking much money. We get our vendor fees from the out-of-town businesses that come in. I don't think last year we had one business brick and mortar that paid to come out on Main Street, and the year before we maybe was tops $100, maybe $150. You know what I mean? So we're not talking, we're talking the cost of one porta
The
potty.
point is to encourage businesses to put goods out on the sidewalk or the street, depending on what the layout of the whole celebration is. We don't know yet, but.
There is also a nonprofit fee that's still in there. I mean, that's not a discussion item tonight, but it could always be. It's a $10 we charge for nonprofits.
So that would be like,
Like the Methodist Church wants to come on Main Street, or
Masonic Lodge.
Masonic Lodge, yep. They pay a $10. FFA usually comes out and they sell lemonade or coffee or things like that. So that's also on our vendor fee policy. But
are we looking to waive them too?
well, I didn't put that in there. I was just clarifying if that's something since this was a discussion item, if you wanted to go ahead and do, that would always be. Anyway.
I guess my opinion is that it's not making or breaking us by these few fees that we're getting, so and they're all part of our community that, well, my opinion is we waive anybody that's got a business in our community, or I would say, like the churches or the Masonic Lodge, all those, we're only charging them $10, that's
Yeah, it's pretty
They're-
minimal.
They're usually here to, make money to give back to our
Right.
community. Why should we charge them
Right.
a fee to do that? Don't make sense.
So if RAGBRAI comes through again,
We can modify it.
which may or may
No,
not ever
we still
happen.
do the same thing.
Sheriff.
It'd be the.
Right.
We're
it'd
changing
be
our
like
fees, so
the-
it'd be
The
Warren
pancake guy
says
that
no.
comes in and
Warren
wants to
says
sell
no.
pancakes for,
You paid 15.
yeah, he pays 50, yeah.
That's right. Okay.
And we can always look too, I mean, it's like, I was giving you when it was last changed, so it's been a while since we did this. The food trucks, I'll be honest, they would pay more. We could definitely up those vendor fees.
It's usually a pretty good line
50
for
gonna
those
be-
vendor
Could make it
trucks.
up.
Yeah, I mean, we could
100 bucks.
definitely propose something to
They're
increase their,
charging the 50.
yeah, they're just charging 50. That would be,
Discourage them
Yeah,
too.
I'd keep that. I wouldn't change that.
Okay.
It's a thought, but
I think that's part of hometown days
what
now,
little revenue we get, it doesn't really
especially the ones that
matter.
have really good food.
yeah.
Okay. Item 10, fireworks. Here we go. Resolution 1872, approving a fireworks agreement with the J&M Displays for Hoover Hometown Days 2020. Give me a motion, someone. Nick, motions. Colton will second. Discussion? Same deal as last year. It's the hallmark of Hoover Days. That's why people come and hang around. Has been for
I don't agree.
30 years.
Okay, yeah, but they don't hang out. They come during the day, they watch the fireworks, and they leave.
Exactly.
And
They
some
come
of them go
during
down to the
day.
fire station.
Yeah, and some come during the day.
Yeah.
and
Some come
participate
during
all
the day.
I've been taking money down there for 2 years, and they
Oh, yeah.
did a big rush after that.
When's the last time we haven't had them?
When was it, Pete?
So when's the last time we haven't?
That's just 3 or 4 years ago, wasn't it?
Drought.
Yeah.
We did the laser show?
Yeah, laser show.
But it was still there. So when's the last time they haven't had them?
Okay, so
Not weather related.
here's where I have a question. Let's say we eliminate the fireworks, $25,000. What are we gonna do with the $25,000? What could we do with the $25,000 that if we didn't have the fireworks?
The Hoover Hometown Days related?
Anything. I mean, it's coming out of our
It's
budget.
general budget.
Coming out of our budget, what, for $25,000 would we do?
That would draw that many people in town.
I'm on the fence on the fireworks, but I'm just, that came to my mind earlier today. It's like, what would we do with the $25,000 if we didn't do the fireworks?
Well, that wouldn't be a problem. We would find something to do with it.
Would we do go into a street project? Would it be something
Splash
for our
pad.
community?
This
To
is
me,
a
it's not
public
just
relations
the
thing.
25,000. To me, it's the 70,000 that we spend for the day.
Yeah, but we're talking about the fireworks now, not the whole Hoover budget.
That would probably fall off. Jerry, there might be an impact.
On donations.
A reduction in contributions and donations if we did that. I don't know how much. Leslie might have an idea.
Been getting around 18,000 the last couple of years. 18,000,
We got over 20 last year.
almost 20. I could see some people not
I don't.
toning that up because if we're saying we're not going to do fireworks, I could really see. That's a good point.
I mean, it's a significant.
How much?
event.
I don't know.
You can go both ways with that. You could also say that if we said that we weren't doing it, then, and the people really want it, then they can donate to it, and they can have them.
Well, the people that we bring into town for Hoover Days in the fireworks, how many of them stop at McDonald's, Casey's, BP, Amoco, go to the fire station, go to Jack and Jill? I talked to Fayette, Jack and Jill, and she said there is a significant increase in their revenues over that weekend. And in the scheme of things, it's trickle-down economics. We're getting a penny out of every dollar those people spend, and that comes back to us in the local option sales tax. So, you know, the motel tax, motel's full up there. If we get another motel in town, that'll be full.
And I know several people who have relatives, mine included, that come back for Hooverfest. And some of them are, I mean, it's not all fireworks related, but I mean, it is. I mean, there's several people that have significant events from,
You know, the
people
class,
from out of town
the
that come
class
over.
reunions, the
Class
family
reunions.
reunions.
I just think it's part of West Branch, and it's tradition, and it needs to stay.
Have we ever thought about, and I've never seen it since I've been here, so have we ever thought about setting anybody up at any entrance to where people sit or park?
The fee to
Not a
start.
fee, just not any different than the Santa Claus at the front of Walmart at the end of the year. Different event, but somebody just standing there and saying, hey, you got $1? Are you willing to donate as you walk through? You know what I mean? You don't have to harass people.
Pass
Just
the
somebody,
boot. I mean, the
somebody's
firemen
standing-
may have passed the boot years and years ago.
They still do.
They still do.
Okay.
But I mean, just for the fireworks, not all day. Like when somebody wants to do a fireworks, hey, somebody's standing there with, I don't know, sparklers or something. Hey, are you willing to donate for the fireworks show? I mean, it might be a little bit, it might be a lot. You never know. But I mean, as far as I've lived in this town for a long time, as well as my parents, and I mean, we sit there and say that people get stuff in the mail to donate, but I don't remember, I have yet, since I've moved back here, to ever get anything in the mail about donating to fireworks.
We'll make sure you get one this year.
I get that. What I'm saying,
And I expect something.
I get that, but I can't be the only person in this town that's lived here for decades that have.
Well, that's another
I got
thought.
an
I mean,
opportunity.
we
You're
haven't
not.
really specifically
Because I
asked
get
for
it
fireworks
from-
money.
I get it from the foundation. I don't get it for donating to the events going on in town.
See, I think we could raise a lot of this 25,000 if maybe we could, I don't wanna say do better, cause we've been working pretty hard at it.
Well,
We could send out more letters.
my
and-
opinion is when we did the 40,000, it seemed like 20,000 of that went up in the last 30 seconds of the fireworks display. And it wasn't even fun. I mean, it was just a whole bunch
It
of
was a
explosions.
cool 30 seconds.
No, it was just a lot of bangs and flash. There's no.
From what I recall, was it most of that cost anyway in the height?
Yeah,
Because when we're gonna lose, we lost like what, 2 seconds and like 100 feet? Like that's what that extra 15 grand got us?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is last year when we had the 25,000,
Oh, yeah.
we didn't have a final a finale that we had $20,000 worth of fireworks
Made
go
you
off all at one
blind.
time. I thought that was a much nicer show than.
And I don't remember really hearing anybody complaints about the height.
No.
I mean, there was a
No.
couple people I said I couldn't see like a
And
bottom
the
fall.
finale
We need to get a little closer.
But,
the
yeah.
finale was acceptable. The same as any other year, I
I
thought.
heard better reviews off last year's than I had on the previous year.
Yeah, I would say.
I guess I just remember when the Park Service or the foundation actually chipped in, and it's back when the fire department took on the whole thing, and the fire department did not spend $70,000, and we had one hell of a party. And I don't understand why it takes $70,000 to have the same party that the fire department and the community put on. I just don't get it.
It's-
Yes.
That was yesterday, this is today, it's a different world,
It's
the
not
fire
a different
departments,
world.
the volunteers,
It's
you
the
guys
same
are
goddamn
taxed.
world.
Your
The
time is taxed.
foundation used to put quite a bit of money. Well, it wasn't
Right,
actually
the foundation used to
It-
spend $100,000
But that
on
was a lot of
fireworks.
donated money though, too. And that's where we got away from, that's when we got in the city tiff with, the
Yeah.
foundation was over
I
that.
know that.
So the fireworks were funded, my understanding, were funded heavily by the foundation.
They did all, they,
I'm saying they
100%.
all.
Yeah.
in the beginning. In the beginning it was. All right, I'm hearing a little dissension, but I still think our overall feeling is fireworks are good.
Everyone's,
Any other discussion?
everyone's chimed in except for Colton.
I don't, I was looking through this, trying to find out what our total budget is, I don't even see it. What's our total budget?
6 million.
$6 million budget.
Oh,
Okay, so we can afford $6 million on stuff. I think we can swing the 25 grand for the fireworks. I mean, at some point you have to invest some in public relations type of community, bring people in. And if it's 25,000 or 40,000 or 50,000 out of a $6 million budget, I think it's doable. I don't think we're skimping on public safety or infrastructure. We're spending a lot of money there. You know, let's do the fireworks.
Once they leave the park, they'll probably never go back.
That's what I was gonna ask too. I know we said
Parks
that last
don't
night.
like
but I don't
fire.
know. I was gonna ask him before we voted, but
Do you want me to talk about it?
I would
Yeah,
like you.
please.
Yeah.
I won't say never, but it took the governor of South Dakota to get him back into Mount Rushmore and President Trump. So when they leave a park, the whole permitting grandfathering kind of ends at that point. So it becomes a lot more complicated. What you have right now is a vendor that has a long history of providing the paperwork that we need to go through all of the hoops that we make you jump through. I mean, Colton once said we made a snow plowing contract into a 28-page document, So, the permitting process for fireworks is complicated. And I think Leslie and Redmond know very well how hard that is. So it is hard, but we have people at Region that review it, and some of it kind of gets out of my authority, and some of it's the proximity. You're shooting it off next to several buildings that, while they may not be ideally maintained right now, they are still part of National Register for the park, and they're historic. So Kevin and his crew spend a lot of time, or put a lot of people up there for the fireworks to protect those buildings for us. So you do have about 700 or 800 people that gather for the fireworks. Those are my rough estimates as I watch. Those are the people that are in front of the library museum. So if that helps you with your decision.
I guess I remember
cemetery.
The first year that we really had the fireworks up there would have been when Reagan came to town
Yeah.
in '93.
that's cool.
And there used to be fireworks. Remember, you used to have the crowd that would gather at in the
was
Loop Road.
There was
We
like
could have
10,000 people
stages.
came to town.
That
for
was
one.
huge.
Yeah, I was a
National
ranger
Guard
that
was here
would
to let 'em out
come
of town.
from another park. I came to Hometown Days for 7 or 8 years just as a ranger to come
Yeah.
work here. And and your height comments are all well founded. I mean, back when I first, in 2010, 11, 12, people were wanting me to cut the pine trees down at the end of Loop Road because the trees were growing too tall. So you're always going to have the height issue, no matter where we're at. But
Not this summer.
Just so Hoovers can see.
Yeah,
it.
well,
Trees will be gone.
yeah. So it's
All right, thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Pete.
All right, any other discussion? All right, we better vote and find out where we're at.
Councilperson Goodweiler?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Sexton?
Yes.
Stulman?
No.
Dean?
Yes.
Right, we got fire again. Okay. City Administrator report.
All right. Just real quick on our wastewater, Ridge is out of the country. What he did before he left showed us how to introduce the enzymes upstream. So at the lift station and some other locations, we've been introducing that so that the enzymes can work in warmer temperature before they get to the lagoon. We'll see if that has any positive impact when we do our testing, but we're continuing to work through that. So and he'll be back at the end of the month.
So where are we on the wastewater project? Are we putting it on hold for now, or are we?
Well, I haven't talked.
At one point, we were ready to design a system.
And I think we still have to kind of start still planning for that. I haven't talked to Dave directly on that topic as of last week or so, so I'm not real sure where he is. I think there was some process that he's still working through with DNR, but he has talked about DNR about this, and the goal is we hope to make this a formal pilot project, which would slow all that other stuff down. So, but they still want to have cold weather data, and if it doesn't get too cold this winter, that still might make it an outlier type of winter. So, Matt, was there anything else like you might?
I think pretty much everything's just kind of running parallel to each other right now. We're doing the two things, keep going with the planning and working on putting the enzymes in and see where it goes from there.
Okay.
Yeah. On College Streets, I know we've been talking about it, and I just want to kind of write down. I talked a bit with Gordon on where we are. There still hasn't been finalized billing yet, so we're still waiting to see how much of retainage we're going to be getting back. We estimate that's going to be somewhere between $80,000 to $85,000. We estimate that's going to bring our balance to around $250,000 or less. We also anticipate, and we talked about in the previous discussion, of moving road use tax dollars over there, which we're talking about doing it in the form of 2 payments of around $100,000 in total. And we've declared and TIF asking of around $75,000, which will get reimbursed to general fund, who's been lending money for this project. That would leave potentially somewhere around $75,000 that either would come in future TIF asking or be reallocated from water or sewer funds, which this project involved water and sewer infrastructure as well. So that's the goal. So we'll see as the details get filled in, but I just wanted to kind of let you know where we are, what we're thinking to be expecting. Had a little bit of update on Splash Pad. I reached out to Carver Trust, and they responded back that it'd probably be a good project, but we would need to have raised the 50% of the total project before we can go get their money, and their money would be capped at $25,000. So that was good. They excited, and actually they were asking when they could come out and visit Covey Park, because I guess they've looked at pictures and aerials, and they are kind of wanting to come out and see. So they seem to be very engaged in what's happening there. I'm still reaching out to our Fidelity Bank because ECIA is involved. Have informed me that Fidelity Bank has supported these projects in the past in other communities. So we're hunting down that process, and I think somewhere soon we'll probably do some kind of campaign with our local industrial partners and see if we can start raising money for the spray pad there too. So there'll be probably a letter asking them to help with that. The downtown east redevelopment site got a little more clearer. So I did speak with the project coordinator out there. So we have a lot of material that will be diverted. It's going to probably go past the grant, because the grant only reimburses up to $25,000 of the diverted material. So we're going to have way more tonnage of material than that 25,000. The other 25 comes from the deconstruction of the facilities, and it's not only just the structure on the top, but it's also the foundation and the concrete and all that. So we believe we're going to be able to get 25 there with the foundations, the road to drive, the concrete bins and all that stuff should be fine. I talked to Bruce about that. We also already got our first bill, which is right around 50,000. None of those are going to be specific to being reimbursed, but it's also required a part of our match. So the next set of bills, which will definitely have about 25,000 we expect, and that's going to probably be the structures, and that's going to be structure A and structure B. That's going to be reimbursable, and then another 40,000 to crush up the rock. So that's what we're anticipating. So and we also anticipate being able to sell that and getting a good chunk of that back, if not all. So that's kind of where we are, and that would also fit within the grant parameters. And we also found out that the material can stay on the site. So that was a thing that would potentially raise the cost of having to move the material. However, they were very much a stickler on how we need some kind of tickets. And it may be, since we don't have to do the whole pile, because we're only going to be reimbursed up to 25,000, that maybe only up to 25,000 we run out and get weighed, or we find some other third party that's maybe an engineer of some sort that's going to give some approved process,
Calculation.
that DNR is going to accept. So we're going to have to really check with them and get it approved before we spend any money on it, because that's going to be the crux of us getting half of that reimbursement. That's going to be pretty important. They also said pretty much they'll reimburse us at the end. So there's a little bit of a cash flow issue, but we got the money, it's funded. But we won't be getting reimbursed until we close out the project. So
Close out as to
finalize it, final report, all
the deconstruction.
deconstruction.
Okay. Not the selling and development.
No,
Just the deconstruction.
Deconstruction. The selling that's gravy. That's positive for us.
Right.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with.
Well, I mean, you're making it sound like the 25,000 that we would get from the rock has to be weighed. That's not going to get weighed until it's taken off the site.
Well, so the example that the program manager ran with me, I guess the city of Hamilton took it off the site and brought it back to the site.
That's
got the
ridiculous.
tickets, and
Ideally, if we can get it used.
yeah, ideally, yes.
Okay.
to provide the ticket.
Yes, ideally.
You have to
So we need to get somebody like Cargill or Co-op.
You mean somebody
Co-op
to the
was
DOT
what we were-
certified
How about a DOT
scale?
scale? I mean, would like a little pad scale, would that?
Oh, that's a lot of rock.
It's a lot of work.
It'd take a long
Bruce
time.
has got, if they would approve his inloader's got a
That was
scale
what I
on
was
it.
just
That's what I
gonna
was
say.
wondering, would
But
they
I don't know
accept
if
a
there'd be
DOT
DOT
certified?
approval.
Bruce said something about a belt. He had a beltway or something like that. So we just got to make sure they're okay with whatever we come up with. I think he even talked about even having some type of flyover LiDAR or something that would do it. But I don't know how much that stuff costs. And if we're only going to get 25 reimbursed, we got way more rock than that.
Yeah, we only got a
Yeah.
certified 20% of what's there.
Yeah, exactly.
Up to 25.
After that, then it's, we don't have to worry about
$25,000
it.
get us some tickets,
Yeah,
however we do it.
yeah, you could easily figure out the
I'd
volume.
be
and see
curious
if
if you
we got
could
more
use
than
your
$25,000
Cargill
worth of rock here.
scale.
Could just give some scale operator $2,000 to give us $25,000 worth of tickets.
Well, you have to have something.
This is high school.
You have to have something
This is
go
a high
across the
school
scale.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, the RFP is out on the garbage, and we expect that to be open for another 20 days or so, and then we should be getting some back. So.
Okay. All right. That's it for Redmond?
What's this about Dollar General?
Oh, so they're looking at
Next to the bank.
next to the bank. There's two properties that they have some land options on there, and I think there's I'm kind of working with Olson and Dave. There's a zoning, a conditional zoning agreement that's out there somewhere that was done years ago.
Wastewater, runoff water?
It was about stormwater, sewer, and also I think connecting the trail. And I think there were some commitments that were never done, and it was supposed to also have some land donated to the city. I don't think we're really interested about the land being donated to the city, but we still want to have the trail connected, and we do want to have the stormwater issue addressed. But
Well, the trail will go right through their parking lot.
yeah, I think it's just a connection, is what, not necessarily the path that was originally.
Path could
Yeah,
go
it could-
somewhere else.
Moran, yeah. Land
I
was
would like
around
to,
that.
I would push for that.
Stormwater.
I thought when we rezoned that or accepted it, Furman was gonna, he either did pay us to put that ditch into
He paid us,
into
We
storm.
have $10,000
Yeah.
from him.
We
I
got,
believe.
that's it?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that comes anywhere
Get
close.
me and Kay, he could look at it for that.
I'd be more concerned about the stormwater.
I don't remember the number, but I think that was maybe 10% of
I don't know, I just heard
Matt's
that it's less than.
getting, yeah.
So are we on the hook for that, or not?
Well, I don't think, well, that's why Kevin's involved.
I know a lot about this.
Okay,
I know a lot about this, all right? So, Furman give us $10,000 for that little section that's right there, that duplex or whatever's right there on the corner.
the fiveplex?
Yeah.
That's right.
He gave us the 10 grand for that little area. So, when Lynch went to go put his development
Which
in,
didn't work out.
that was the big stinking point, was that he had to run, we were asking him to run the storm sewer all the way to the
Creek.
from there. So he's like, then I'm just not gonna do it that way, you need it another way. So if we ask them to put that Dollar General there, theoretically our stormwater policy says they've gotta pipe that all the way
To the creek.
to the creek. And I don't know.
Fine, let's make them pipe it to the creek.
I don't know, I
We
mean,
got 10 grand from, we could,
well, we got
Give
10
them
grand
10
we can do
grand.
from Furman, you know, I don't, you make that, what you're doing then is you're gonna make
we
that,
setting a precedent.
you're gonna make that piece of property undeveloped.
But how much they
I
produce.
mean, it's just gonna be a unmowed field for the rest of forever.
Okay.
I mean,
So you're suggesting they pay us
Engineering
a
costs.
certain amount to make that go away?
I'm not suggesting that, but I'm suggesting, I mean, right now, there's an open there's stormwater coming off of it right now. I mean, obviously, when you pave it, there's gonna be more and that type of stuff, but, you know, what do you do?
We're not asking for curb and gutter, we're just asking for, ultimately, it needs to be, it will be curb and gutter someday with a sidewalk.
Well, the parking lot, I would assume, would be curb and
That
gutter.
should be curb and gutter with a sidewalk.
And all that water's
But with
gonna come
an area
down,
for water to go out.
yeah, and go into that ditch, and is the ditch going to be able to handle what's there?
That'll have to be all part of this
I don't think so.
engineering
Well, I know Dave has
Study.
been talking with their engineer. I don't know what they've come up with. But
I would say we let them.
I wanted to talk to Kevin to figure out all this stuff that you're talking about, to see what was required.
I guess the other thing, which we went down this road with Lynch also, was that, you know, that's a big, more property than they're gonna need. So there probably would be a spot to have a little detention basin on the property. But the bank ain't gonna want a detention sitting next to them, and we already know Cooks don't want one.
It's
So,
uphill anyway. All right, let's let them figure
It'd
it
be
out,
up
I
to them
guess.
to figure out where they put on-site retention.
yeah.
And, I mean,
Because that would help it if there was on-site retention, and at least you could slow down the flow
They
into
could-
the
They could
ditch.
possibly do
They
it
could
like
do it underground.
Casey did up there and put it
Underground.
underground.
it'd have to be all part of their design work.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
And by the way, you mentioned Casey, so you reminded me the artist is working on the billboard or whatever we're calling it, and she expects it to be ready in spring.
The mural.
The mural.
What are they gonna
That
pave?
sounds much better than bulletin
So they're
board.
gonna pave the old Casey's go to spring?
I thought we were getting in concrete.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I just was wondering.
We don't know
They're
what's
not gonna do
going
it now, but I didn't know if we had a time frame on them paving it.
I heard they would do it in wildflowers.
Okay, what do we got? Kevin's not here. Staff, anybody else? Okay, council people. I would like to say, we can't send out mass emails and texts to ourselves en masse to all 5 council people and mayor. I've been reminded we shouldn't, that's a no-no. So, duly noted.
It's not like it's happened, we're just,
No,
in case it
right.
does.
I do send out a text telling you guys we got a 6 o'clock meeting, an early meeting sometimes. Is that okay?
You got it. What really gets you in trouble when it's going both ways. The conversation cannot be responded to. So if you send something, you cannot respond to it. Anybody.
So you just
Even
need
if
to
you
put on
say
the do
okay.
not respond.
Yeah, don't even say okay.
Well, if I say, who is this? Why are you texting me?
That's a response, okay.
So that's why it's not even that great of a
Motion to
communication
adjourn.
because you
Go
can't
ahead.
talk.
I do want to say thank you to, I forgot her name just now. God, it's hell getting old. Anyhow, she put out there to ask for help writing the grant. Help me.
Emily Walsh?
Yes.
Yeah. Emily Walsh?
Emily put it on there. There's a
Yes,
couple people
Emily.
that
Emily.
agreed to
Yes,
help.
yes,
Emily and the robotics teacher at the high
Yes.
school,
Matt.
they're getting together to write a
Yeah, and
grant.
then I think,
The VW grant, they're gonna work on it.
Oh, awesome.
yes.
Blake.
Maybe Blake Schultz
Yeah.
is also.
And his wife, I think they both
Yeah.
said they
Yeah,
might
maybe.
help too.
Free of
Maybe
charge, I
maybe they'll
think.
make it their project this year, and we won't have to do chickens or
Chickens?
something else.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Okay, so nice
Or
job.
maybe they'll set their game up. with the Irving.
Any motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
Tom and Jerry seconds. All those in
Aye.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is